If you're the president of the United States or the CIA director or the chairs of the Intelligence Committee of the Senate, who are supposed to be read in even to the legal black budget, the super secret black budget, and you make an inquiry into this and you're denied access or you are threatened, they don't regard the laws of any nation or international laws as something they need to obey. Something scarier is that the director who took me there said, and we're in the chopper, he says, and tears came to his eyes, because he says, when we put up a temporary flight restriction over this area, if a civilian aircraft flies in there, like a private jet or plane, we hit it, and that plane and those people vanish, and no one ever knows what happened to them.
Imagine being the President of the United States, the Director of the CIA, or the Chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. You would expect to be privy to all classified information, right? However, many top officials are often denied access or even threatened when they inquire about certain programs. The secrecy surrounding these programs is maintained through a combination of intimidation and deliberate misinformation. High-ranking officials, including presidents and intelligence directors, are often kept in the dark. This isn't just a U.S. issue, it's a global conspiracy. Even members of Congress who are supposed to oversee these programs are often left out, creating a significant gap in accountability.
Once I learned personally that the director of the CIA and president and people like the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency and the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff and senior members and chairmen of committees in the House and Senate were being denied access to and or threatened, then we concluded that these programs are illegal and they cannot use the National Security Act to protect them. Now, this is true of Canada, by the way, also, and Great Britain and other countries. These are meetings that I have been part of. In fact, not only part of, these are meetings at which I have been the stand-up briefer, the person conducting the briefing. And to hear, someone like a 3-star general who is the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the largest military intelligence entity in the planet, telling me directly that under inquiry, he was denied access and brushed aside. This is when you know things have gone off the rail. This does create a lot of fear, though. I mean, members of Congress know this is dangerous and that there's nobody without sin. So, I mean, a lot of these members of Congress know that this group could have dirt on them or what have you, or withhold campaign donations from large aerospace companies. And so they will do their bidding. But we do have a few members of Congress who are taking the charge and are trying to get this through, but it's getting blocked at other levels. And so this is why we need an alternative strategy. This archive is basically the disclosure everyone's asking for. There's a group that has gone under various names. I have a document from the early 1990s that calls them the Majority Joint Intelligence Committee, although it's just under an acronym of MAGIC or MAGI, M-A-J-I or M-A-J-I-C. And it's a global operation, actually. And there are people over the years that I've known who've been involved, like Admiral Bobby Ray Inman and former Vice President Dick Cheney and others. And there are international folks on it. It's very heavily weighted in the private sector, in financial and technology sectors, because, one of the first things I tell people, I remember when I was first asked to come in for the Senate Intelligence Committee folks 2 or 3 years ago and went into a SCIF, which is a secure compartmented information facility. It's where top secret information is exchanged. And I basically said, up above you there is a map of the world. Erase all the geopolitical boundaries. The organization we're dealing with doesn't recognize Canada, U.S., Soviet, Russia, Great Britain. It's the whole world is their operating theater. And they don't regard the laws of any nation or international laws as something they need to obey. So they view themselves, quite frankly, above and beyond conventional society and law. It's a very powerful group. Why would it have such power? Well, it's sitting on technologies that are thousands of years from the future that would immediately get us off of oil and gas and coal and the petrodollar and fossil fuels and surface roads and public utilities. And we're talking more than $1,000 trillion in assets would go the way of horse and buggies, right? So That is the problem. It's a massive macroeconomic issue. And the Minister of Defense of Canada that I met with, Paul Hellyer, he was a macroeconomics guy. And when I described what the secrecy was really about, he lit up. He says, when he was Ministry of Defense head in Canada, he says he never understood why he was denied this information. I said, yeah, because anybody who cares about humanity and the earth and the future of humanity would want these technologies used for peaceful purposes, and we'd have a whole new civilization. And that should have happened 100 years ago.
One key reason for this secrecy is the advanced technology these programs have developed and acquired. These technologies are said to be thousands of years ahead of what we know today and have the potential to revolutionize energy, transportation, and communication. For instance, zero-point energy technology, which taps into the quantum vacuum, could provide unlimited free energy and make fossil fuels obsolete. However, releasing this technology would disrupt the global economy, leading to massive shifts in power and wealth. Zero-point energy, first conceptualized by physicist Max Planck in 1911, refers to the lowest possible energy a quantum system can have. Unlike classical mechanics, quantum systems constantly fluctuate even in their lowest energy state due to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. This means that even in a vacuum, there is a residual energy that, if harnessed, could provide endless energy, radically transforming our energy infrastructure. This secrecy dates back to the 1950s, when a group took control of these programs from President Eisenhower. In his 1961 farewell address, Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex. This warning was based on his knowledge of these secret programs and his frustration with the lack of oversight. This group, which took control, continues to operate these programs in secret to this day.
The hardest thing to understand is the why. Why has this happened? Why was it assigned such secrecy? Why did a group in the 1950s seize power away from President Eisenhower and turn this into an illegal black project? 1961, he said, beware the military-industrial complex because it will be a threat to our democracy and way of life. And the reason he said that, which he didn't put into the speech, but we know now from people who worked with him, whose testimony was that he was in favor of moving forward with peaceful contact with the ETs and disclosing at least the technologies that would benefit humanity safely. Not necessarily the things that fly, because those can be a missile system, but the things that would run your house or your car or whatever without pollution, and by the way, free, no energy bills. And Eisenhower was a 5-star general. When he made that speech, it's not like it was Abby Hoffman, radical hippie who was opposed to the military. He was a World War II hero and a 5-star general. Most people don't know the history of why he became so depressed and so despondent towards the end of his administration. It's because between 1956 and 1960, a group of folks decided to seize control over these projects and decapitate the presidency and other people who wouldn't go along with their agenda. And that's still the case. 60 years on, it's exactly the same as it was in the late 50s, early 60s. I have a member of my team who is the most senior scientist at the Naval Research Labs, who was out there on an operation at Dugway Proving Grounds, and they were out there late at night with night scopes, and out of the ground comes this massive triangular silent craft. And it was one built by Northrop Grumman or Raytheon, man-made, totally free energy and totally anti-gravity, quote unquote. And we know that that's what's going on out there. There are both extraterrestrial vehicles they're studying and man-made ones that can be deployed from there. And it's a very large research and development area. Now, 52% of that range is owned and run by private corporate contractors and only 48% by government. And the reason it's structured that way is that if someone does a FOIA request, they're not going to get anything. It's all sitting in the corporate world. It's the tail is wagging the dog here. The big corporate interests have done this shell game and smoke and mirrors to be able to hide what's going on so that even senior people in government don't know what it is. And the corporations can claim proprietary privilege.
These programs are deliberately structured to avoid scrutiny. Many operations are conducted by private contractors who aren't subject to the same transparency requirements as government agencies. Companies like Lockheed Skunk Works, Northrop Grumman, General Electric, Raytheon, and Boeing are deeply involved in developing and testing advanced technologies. These corporations often claim proprietary privilege to avoid disclosing information about their activities. The close ties between the government and these corporations create a web of secrecy that is difficult to penetrate. In 2023, a rare helicopter flight over 2 black sites revealed more about these covert operations. These sites, near Edwards Air Force Base, are where Lockheed Skunk Works tests their man-made UFOs. At least 1 or 2 extraterrestrial vehicles are targeted and destroyed at these sites each year. The weapons used include electromagnetic pulse, EMP weapons, and scalar weapons, which operate faster than light. EMP weapons emit bursts of electromagnetic radiation that can disrupt electronic systems. Scalar weapons, a more advanced type of directed energy weapon, use waves that travel faster than light and can affect objects at a distance. These technologies are not just theoretical. There are reports and patents suggesting their development and use. The secrecy and lack of oversight in these programs have led to a culture of impunity. Those involved believe they are above the law. This mindset has resulted in tragic consequences, including the deaths of innocent civilians and cover-ups of these incidents. The lack of accountability undermines trust in government and erodes democratic principles. Efforts to bring these issues to light have faced resistance and skepticism. However, the commitment to exposing the truth and advocating for the release of these advanced technologies for the benefit of humanity remains strong. Declassified documents from the National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, provide crucial insights into these covert operations. The NRO, which operates U.S. reconnaissance satellites, has been involved in tracking and targeting extraterrestrial vehicles. These documents reveal the government's deep involvement in these secret programs and the lengths they go to maintain secrecy. The testimony of Admiral Bobby Ray Inman, a former director of the National Security Agency, NSA, and deputy director of the CIA, further supports these claims. Inman has publicly acknowledged the existence of these secret programs and their advanced technologies. His testimony highlights the compartmentalization and secrecy that even the highest levels of government face. Many military personnel have also witnessed these advanced technologies firsthand. For example, former Air Force pilot Lieutenant Colonel Richard French described encounters with extraterrestrial vehicles and the government's efforts to reverse engineer their technology. French's testimony provides compelling evidence of the government's long-standing interest in extraterrestrial technology. In addition to testimonies, physical evidence, such as materials from crashed extraterrestrial vehicles, has been analyzed. Independent laboratories have found these materials possess unique properties not found in any known earthly materials. This physical evidence supports the existence of advanced extraterrestrial technology and efforts to study and reverse engineer it. The implications of these findings are profound. Releasing advanced technologies, like zero-point energy, could revolutionize the world. It could eliminate our dependence on fossil fuels, reduce pollution, and provide abundant, free energy for all. However, suppressing these technologies for economic and geopolitical reasons is a major barrier to progress.
Back in the 90s, there was a Congressman, Christopher Cox from Orange County, I briefed in his offices. He said, well, where are these places? So I started putting together a list, and also a list of the corporations. And we came across the ones, like for the ones that are building underground covert facilities and deep underground bases and tunnels between those bases, crisscrossing out west all over, Bechtel Corporation and HIT Construction. Then I found that there were which aerospace companies had what facilities where. So we learned that Northrop Grumman, ironically, my uncle, who worked on the lunar module, had his whole career with Northrop Grumman, and also Lockheed Skunk Works, a division of Boeing, and also there are divisions of Ford and General Motors that have worked on these programs, General Electric, Raytheon, EG&G. There's a whole list. You'll see the names of the corporations and where some of the key facilities are, where the R&D is going on, including out in the desert of California, Nevada, Utah, and elsewhere. So we know where all these are. We have sources and methods to pinpoint those. In fact, I'll say something here that's rather shocking. In September of 2023, last September, I was put on a helicopter by a man who is currently senior operational in these covert programs dealing with UFOs, and flown over 2 of these black sites. We hovered over one where the Lockheed Skunk Works man-made UFOs come up out of the ground. Now, people go, how the hell did you get there? Now, if you look at the environment right around this facility, there are these gigantic things that look like antennas. They're not. They're electromagnetic pulse weapons that are used to create electromagnetic and scalar pulses to test the man-made UFOs, but also just that one site I was over at the Lockheed Skunk Works facility, way out in the desert near Edwards Air Force Base, at least 1 or 2 extraterrestrial vehicles are targeted with that weapon and knocked down every year. So if you look at our crash retrieval section, you'll see there's something like 130 plus crash retrieval cases, but that's probably less than 10% of the ones that have happened, where we have targeted them with these advanced directional energy weapons, or DEWs, using very high-tech, faster than the speed of light technology. A scalar weapon is faster than a normal light wave or electromagnetic signal, and they don't hit them every day, but this one place I was over is 1 or 2 killed ET craft a year. Something scarier is that the director who took me there said, and we're in the chopper, he says, and tears came to his eyes, because he says, when we put up a temporary flight restriction over this area, if a civilian aircraft flies in there, like a private jet or plane, we hit it, and that plane and those people vanish, and no one ever knows what happened to them. It's a missing plane, missing person account. Even sometimes when people are outside the temporary flight restriction area, the beam of this weapon will go out too far and hit an aircraft. And he has personally retrieved them. He has personally retrieved the bodies of the ETs and craft and these innocent civilians who have been killed. Now, this is a scandalous situation. We're talking murder going on now, right now. And those kind of facilities, by the way, exist all over the world. Australia, down under. I know what the technologies are, and I know what they're capable of. And I also know that sometimes these covert programs are trying to hit and retrieve an extraterrestrial vehicle to study it, and they will inadvertently hit a civilian aircraft. And of course, that gets covered up or whatever. Or in the case of this one site, there's no trace. We're talking incineration of both the human bodies and the human aircraft to powder. There's nothing there. Unfortunately, there are people who are wondering what happened to their family members flying on a private plane out in certain areas that vanished, that have never been found. Well, now we know where they are. They're nowhere, but we know what happened.
The targeting and destruction of civilian aircraft are stark reminders of the lengths these secretive organizations will go to protect their interests. The lack of accountability for such actions underscores the need for robust oversight and transparency. One notable case is that of Dr. Paul Benowitz, an American businessman who believed he had uncovered evidence of extraterrestrial activity near Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico during the 1980s. Benowitz claimed he intercepted electronic signals that he believed were of alien origin and captured photographs of unidentified flying objects. Instead of addressing his concerns, the Air Force allegedly subjected Benowitz to a campaign of disinformation to discredit him and drive him to a mental breakdown. This case highlights the lengths to which agencies will go to protect their secrets. Similarly, the experiences of Bob Lazar, who claimed to have worked on reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology at a site called S4 near Area 51, have added fuel to the fire. Lazar described advanced propulsion systems using element 115, a substance not confirmed by science until decades later. His detailed accounts of these technologies and his subsequent harassment underscore the possible truth behind his claims and the extreme measures taken to maintain secrecy. In recent years, the Pentagon's establishment of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena (UAP) task force signifies a growing acknowledgement of the issue. This task force aims to standardize the collection and analysis of UAP reports across the military, indicating a shift towards greater transparency. The release of videos showing Navy pilots encountering unexplained aerial phenomena has further legitimized the discussion and increased public interest in these matters. Moreover, various government officials have called for more transparency. Senator Harry Reid, former Senate Majority Leader, has been a vocal advocate for investigating UAPs. Reid played a pivotal role in the creation of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, which investigated UAP encounters. His advocacy highlights the need for governmental transparency and the public's right to know about these phenomena. The potential for breakthroughs in energy, transportation, and communication is immense. The technologies reportedly developed and suppressed could solve many of the world's most pressing problems. For instance, advanced propulsion systems could enable space travel beyond our current capabilities, opening new frontiers for exploration and potentially discovering new resources. Moreover, the environmental impact of transitioning to clean, limitless energy sources cannot be overstated. Reducing our reliance on fossil fuels would significantly decrease greenhouse gas emissions, combat climate change, and reduce pollution-related health issues. The societal benefits of such a transition are profound, offering a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable future for all.